I mean, the fact that the Padres are the first team ever to get 3 relievers to an All-Star game. What's your reaction to that?
I think it's great. I think that it shows obviously the depth of their bullpen. And what I think is great is look, Adrian Morejon was a replacement, and so was Robert Suarez, and we've gotten to the point where like some of these replacements, it's made it a little ridiculous sometimes, where like there's 40 All-Stars in each league or something. But like the thing about the relievers that I think is interesting for the Padres is that like Adrian Morejon could have been their first reliever. Like he could have been Jason Adam, the one who was voted in by players. Like all 3 of those guys, there is zero question they deserve to be the guy. You could have considered Morejon a snub. I don't get too worked up over that. But like they're really good. And I'm glad they get to do that, because there was a time when, people are wondering how good the Padres bullpen is. And I'm sure there will be a time later in the season where they're wondering, but man, Morejon of all the guys, I mean, gosh, what a career. And he's 26. Like I told him today, you feel like you're older than I am. You've been around so long. And he acknowledges it seems like a long time since 2015 or whatever. But yeah, he's 26 and he kicks ass.
Yeah, Morejon and Adam, I feel like, are the 2 players you're the most excited about if you're a Padres fan, because first-timer is always great. And then guys that have been with the organization for as long as Adrian Morejon has, and the ups and downs that he's gone through, and we've all seen it and been first-hand experience here, to see him, finally, getting to a place where, it shows how good he has been this year. It's just a great accomplishment. Kevin, what was your overall first, I guess, summary of the first half here after this weekend with the Padres?
If you had to go overall and looking forward, which I think is always very important, I say, pretty good. But yeah, this was so complicated. The incredible start. And for me, like one of the big differences between, say, this year and last year, and as you compare that, what are they? They're 8 over now. They were 1 over at the All-Star break. They played a few more games at the All-Star break last year. But so they're 7 games better right now. But like they didn't start last year like they started this year. Yeah. So like that's why we are all, and somewhat justifiably, like, well, but it seems disappointing. And sure, and there's lots of reasons we could point to that say, wow, there's some worrisome trends or whatever. I think it's important that they finished a little better. Let's not get carried away. Some better offensive approaches, some slightly better offensive numbers, slightly in some categories, and the bullpen's overall consistency. That I think it was a good first half, and I don't really see the argument that it wasn't, unless one is being entirely myopic and comparing. What we do is we compare teams to the 1927 Yankees. That's what we do. Yeah. We do not compare them to the other teams in the league. And if you compare to the other teams in the league, Padres are sitting pretty good.
Kevin Acee, our Padres Insider, is joining us right now from Atlanta, where again the All-Star game will be held tomorrow night, and the Home Run Derby will be held in a couple of hours. All right, let me ask this question. I'd love for you to finish this sentence. If the Padres add this piece, they have a chance to go on a run in the second half like they did a year ago.
A right-handed bat that can bat fifth and provide the pop, or somehow provide the slug in whatever capacity that is, the Padres can go very far. It was a run-on sentence, but there it is.
I like that.
So basically what you're saying is Jarren Duran, a left-handed bat that plays outfield and doesn't have much pop, right?
Well, yeah, he wouldn't solve all their problems, but that guy is such a kick-ass player, and that him, Merrill, Tatis.
Sure.
I just think that'd be a tough team on offense. Now, I want to caution everybody. You bring over, it's just hard. Look what Juan Soto didn't do here. Right. It's just hard. I still am always going to say, and I'm sorry I have to do this, and I'll keep doing it up to the trade deadline and beyond. Whatever they do at the trade deadline, their core players have to either, in Manny Machado's case, to some extent in Tatis's case, if you take the totality of his first half, continue to do what they're doing, and some other guys have to be better.
And as much as you've dealt with AJ Preller and, seeing what he has gone through to get players that he wants, does it feel like, when he goes after a player, he'll try heaven and earth to get that person by any means necessary?
Right. And so I think you probably have in your mind Duran and I mean, the way that AJ and others in the organization have just, talked about this guy for years. Yes, he falls into that category, and it's almost like you can't believe he's not going to be here based on what AJ has done with players that he loves. That said, I mean, Red Sox are on a 10-game winning streak, and I don't know that they're going to be. But the Red Sox could be a seller and a buyer, right? Like, they have players to play his position, but I don't know what the Padres have to give a team that wants to win now and kind of needs to win now, given all that's going on with the Red Sox this year. I don't know how that fits.
Do you have any idea their level of interest in, as we switch gears to catcher, and obviously an upgrade is necessary, and we can get into Luis Campusano, although I think his role is more as DH than catcher, but to make a true upgrade, when you talk about someone like a Sean Murphy, has that name come up in any of your reporting? I mean, here's another guy kind of like Duran. He's signed for a long time. He's a star at his position. He's a right-hander and would be just a massive upgrade, obviously, for the Padres at this point.
Massive. And the money could be a thing. I'm not even sure if they really know, if AJ really knows what he's operating with. They are 100% buyers. They are going to try to get better, but I'm not sure if they know exactly what they can invest. Is it $5 more million that he would be owed this year, and then he's still under contract? I can't rule it out. And just a little disclaimer on my reporting, not one of the national guys. And so I hear a lot of things, but not until I have not heard Murphy. But that doesn't necessarily mean anything. I hear a lot of things. Not until I feel like it's super real will I write about it, because just putting rumors out there, I'm just not going to live that way. I wouldn't have time for the rest of my job. So to the fact that I haven't heard Murphy, I'm pretty confident that he's not on a realistic possibility for the Padres. But it's AJ Preller, man. It's AJ Preller.
Looking bigger picture here, Kevin, AJ is not under a long-term contract. He is only signed through next year, and going out and getting a player like, say, Jarren Duran, hypothetically, it would cost a lot. And knowing that he's not under contract, does that have anything, or does that play any role in how he approaches this deadline from an organizational standpoint? If he goes to John, or if he goes to whoever to ask about, hey, can we add some money here? Can we add some money here? But he's only under contract for next season, and he's not got any, at least that I've seen, any potential contract extension talks here. Where does that play in this whole thing?
It's a really interesting question. I'm going to try to answer it the best that I can. That I have honestly come to believe about AJ, that it doesn't matter what his status is. He's the same guy in terms of being a psycho for trying to improve the team that he is building. That when it was a very real thing a couple times in his tenure that he could be gone, I don't think that he did anything different. And I think that his history backs that up. The guy is always out of his mind, working all the time and trying to make the Padres better and being very aggressive and mortgaging the future. I don't think that has anything to do with his status. Now, his status is very interesting. He does not have Peter Seidler anymore, either basically leading him in a direction to spend money or saying yes to almost everything. So from the perspective of ownership, I don't know that AJ's contract status really matters at all either, because they're going to just do things a different way. And when I say that, they're still putting back what they make into the team, right? They're not pocketing it, but like it's also not going into crazy debt, as which Peter was entirely willing to do to make that run. And so like, I'm not sure that his AJ status comes into it. AJ's status will increasingly become a story and become important, but I don't know that it plays into, I don't believe it plays into how he or ownership is approaching this deadline or team building.
Would you agree with this? Is it fair to say if the Padres are in the postseason, Preller would be extended, or there's a decent chance or a good chance he's extended? And if the Padres are out of the postseason, he would still be here and under contract for 2026. Is that how you would envision it? If it played out down one of those two paths, he's back with 1 year on his deal, or
read
he's
into
back.
This what you will. I read into this what you will, because I've begun reporting on it. And there's just not anything to report right now. But I can't confidently tell you any of that. I can't confidently answer any of that. So there's almost something to be read into that, maybe. But and all I mean there is that, hey, we don't know. Like, it's not like, oh yeah, AJ's going to get an extension if they go to the wild card round. And no, I don't know that. It's not like, oh, he's going to be fired if they don't get past the wild card round. I don't know that. I don't know if anyone does know that necessarily. There are people that think they do, but I don't. I can't answer that, and maybe that's more fodder for you guys to talk about.
He is.
We'll read into that,
we
Kevin.
will read into that, Kevin, for 3 hours. Actually, for 3 weeks. No.
I kept talking because I'm trying to take out all the things you can read into. But the fact is that there are things that can be read into that for sure. Like versus, oh yes, he's already gotten the ironclad, vote of confidence, the one that you believe, not the one that comes before a firing. But no, there isn't that yet. But to be fair, there hasn't necessarily been a reason for that, and things have kind of been up in the air. I mean, remember, I don't know if it was the hot seat last year, like I think it was, but it was at least the warm seat last year. So we're only 1 year removed from that, and a lot of the issues that they have are still there. Like Xander Bogaerts' contract that, he shares, he shares some of the blame for that. So there's still a lot of the issues that are there. But he also has been very successful. I think I just think it's a fascinating when you start assessing AJ Preller's tenure. I just think it's fascinating.
The only more tenured general manager remaining, because Mike Rizzo was fired, is Brian Cashman, who's got 4 titles as GM, 1 as assistant GM, has been there since 1998. All right. Great reporting and insight.
He also took over. I think it's unfair to compare the two.
They're not the Yankees.
He took over the Yankees.
Yeah. Of course. The payroll, everything's different. Mike Rizzo was Mike Rizzo was also let go with a title in hand in 2019, but the rebuild took too long. Kevin, we appreciate it. Enjoy Atlanta. We'll do it again later in the week, and thanks for hopping on as always.
Right on. Take care.
All right. Great stuff from Kevin AC, brought to you by the all-new Jamul Casino Resort, the Players Place. We react to that.
That's interesting.
All right. The direction of the show has changed here momentarily based on what Kevin just told us or didn't tell us. And if you missed the whole conversation, we'll play it back for you over portions of the next couple of hours as well. But what he said is no determination will be made on AJ. No reporting of his will go down a path of, well, Preller's back if this happens, or Preller isn't back if this doesn't happen, which leads us, I think, and you can speak for yourself, but leads me down the path of, well, without Peter Seidler, it's different. It's not to say that everything has changed or some things have changed, but it's changed. You no longer have the backing of Peter Seidler. So we can't just as simple as say, well, if they make the postseason, they go 86 and 76, they're the 6th seed, they lose in the wild card, I extend them, give him 2027. And we can't say just because they missed the postseason, he's given 2026 either.
Yeah,
it's a new world. Peter, unfortunately, is no longer the owner. It's now Jon. What impact does that have on AJ Preller? Remains to be seen.
And Kevin said it, so I'll do it, which is read into what he said there. And if you've listened to Kevin over the past however many years here on San Diego Sports 760, whether it be on our show, Fletch Zone, or any other show on this station, what's going on?
Keep going.
Dude,
it's tenuous. Dude, I can't even touch it.
You need to get
this cord.
It's the cord. You need to get a new cord. Jeez, man. What is happening?
I go back on vacation.
Jeez.
Go back to what you're saying.
All right.
I'm back.
If you've heard Kevin on this station over the last couple of years, when asked about the future of AJ Preller,
Yep.
I do feel like most of the time he has a clear answer. Now, does it always turn out to be what he says is going to happen? No. But I do feel like a couple of years ago, or just last year, talking about AJ Preller's future, it was, well, he's got to make the postseason to keep his job, essentially. Like, he was a little bit on the hot seat. Depending on how the season goes, will determine the future potentially of AJ.
Remember, Eric Ascenda was like, everyone's accountable for the success of the team.
And so now hearing that from Kevin, man, your mind just wanders of like, yo, if they don't make the postseason this year, then that would be probably the end for AJ. And even if they do make the postseason,
is he guaranteed to return?
Because just making the wild card round, I don't know if it's good enough. And while I think AJ has morphed into over the years, it's taken him a long time, but he has morphed into a pretty damn good general manager for all things considered. I know he's had his ups and he's had his downs for sure. And there's been some pretty steep downs in his career. Overall, I think that if AJ were to be let go or not have his contract renewed, I think a majority of the fan base would be upset with it.
Well, it's almost like, what I was saying last year. Remember this before they went 43-19? I mean, we had this conversation all the time. We're like, this team's not good. They're like 49-50. They had a first-year manager, Mike Schild. Nobody was overly impressed at the time. The team was underperforming. Manny Machado couldn't hit the side of a barn the first half of a year. And we're talking about AJ Preller's future. And I remember saying two things. A, how desirable is the job in that exact moment with the Bogarts contract and their financial issues? And secondly, be careful what you wish for. Are you really upgrading your GM by moving on from AJ Preller? What are the options? You can't just go pluck Theo Epstein out of thin air. It doesn't exist. That's a fantasy world. Now, if it does exist, it's a different conversation. You can't just go pluck Mike Rizzo out of thin air. Maybe you can.
Well, you could.
Because he's no longer employed. That would be fascinating, by the way. If he's the next general manager.
Could you imagine that? The stories there,
Yeah.
It would just be crazy.
But that's kind of my point. Like, okay, could you do better? Yeah, sure. Could you do worse? Yes. And how good of a job is it? It's his 11th year. Of the 30 GMs, 28 have served less than 11 years, and then there's Brian Cashman. I agree with Kevin. I'm not comparing the Yankees to the Padres or Preller to Cashman. That's not fair. But like sometimes they say with coaching, Andy Reid was let go by the Eagles. I mean, one of the greatest coaches in NFL history. The voice gets stale. Sometimes things happen. I'm not calling Preller Andy Reid, by the way. But I'm saying there's circumstances where you just move on, not because Preller's not good and not because the organization has a better idea, but sometimes it's just best for both sides to chart a different course. That happens in life.
And that answer from Kevin does tell me that not everybody in the organization has Preller's back. Eric Grupner. Did I say that out loud?
You really did.
It just tells me that it's not a 100% certainty that AJ is going to be back next year or even get a contract extension because, like we've talked about, like he does not have the backing of Peter Seidler, that's all that mattered back then. Even if guys like Eric Grupner or whoever else in the organization was, not in AJ's corner, the only person that mattered was Peter. And now that Peter's not there, you have to wonder, do voices like Eric Grupner's get into the ear of guys, like obviously John Seidler, who is the control person of this team, and does that change things? Does any of that change things going forward?
On the other side, I want to discuss that further because hypothetically speaking, like if the next 5 years were under AJ Preller or someone else, like what would you prefer? It's hard to answer that because you don't know who the someone else is. That's the problem.